Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today, we're going to be looking at how to raise money to keep your communities active. We're going to be talking through the wonderful match funding opportunity from Sport England, which is the Movement Fund. And we're also going to hear from Claire Hancox-Devine. She's here representing the Newquay Women's Surf Club, who have recently been approved and successful in raising money as part of the Movement Fund. I have just popped a couple of messages into the chat box. Do feel free to introduce yourselves. Make use of that chat box throughout the session as well. We'd love to keep this as interactive as possible. Okay, before we dive into today's content, there's just a few housekeeping points to go through. We have allowed 60 minutes for this session, and that does include a Q&A at the end. So if you do want to ask a question, you can either pop that into the chat box or you can use the Q&A box, which you should find as part of your toolbar. We'll make sure we get through as many of those questions as we can do today. This is a live session. We are actually recording the whole session though, so you will be able to watch this back after the event. We'll make sure we send out an email to you that will contain a link to the replay and also links to any of the resources that we've talked through today. Now, if you find you have any issues with your internet connection, do just leave the webinar and then use the registration link to come straight back into the live room. If you find that you've missed out on any of the chat, then just pop a message in there and we can make sure we bring you back up to speed. Now, if you find that I am sat over the top of a slide and you can see my face kind of getting in the way, then please just pop up to the top right-hand side of your screen. You should be able to click the view option and select side-by-side speaker view. Then you should be able to see the whole slide and I will be just next to that. The speakers will be next to the slide. Okay, so before we get into the content proper, what I would like to do is just gauge a bit of an idea in the chat box, please, as to your understanding of crowdfunder. So do you have a crowdfunding campaign up and running? Maybe it's something you're considering. You might not have any kind of ideas about it at all. So just pop a little message into the chat so we can gauge who we have in the audience today. While you're doing that, I'm going to talk through why it is important to think about diversifying those income streams as a not-for-profit organisation. So for the majority of you here today, no doubt you will already be in some way receiving grant funding to be able to deliver your projects, whether that's through kind of ongoing grants, whether that's through local authorities. I imagine as well that you're also potentially charging memberships to take part in your physical activities that you offer. It's really, really important, especially when you have kind of minimal revenue drivers in terms of your income streams, to make sure that you're really aware of the different ways that you can be bringing money in and try and be as sustainable as possible in order to enhance that long-term sustainability, reduce the financial risks that could be associated with, running an organization and your club. You also want to make sure, sorry, let me just move this one back. Oh, bear with me 2 seconds. My slides have gone a little bit funny. There we are. It's a great way to unlock new opportunities as well. You can expand your reach, and that can lead to a really wonderful awareness around what you're doing. It can help you tap into different networks and different audiences, which then can help to build your organization and maybe the engagement with the activity that you're delivering. It can also help to keep donor engagement strong. So what I mean by that is having exciting and creative ways in which people can actually donate to you and support you can help to keep those relationships loyal and can grow those relationships. And there's lots of different things you can do using a platform such as Crowdfunder in order to do that in an exciting way. And of course, with match funding opportunities, it's a lot, I would say, a lot easier to access potentially than your traditional grants that may be out there and available to you. Okay, let's have a little look in our chat box just to see where we are with people. Wonderful. Okay, so we've got a few people who have a little bit of experience with crowdfunding already, some that are very new to this. That's really good to know. So I'll start right at the beginning and we'll talk a little bit about what is crowdfunding. So some of you will be familiar with fundraising on digital platforms. There's many of them out there, and I'm sure you're aware of them. Ourselves at Crowdfunder UK, we have a few different unique selling points, if you like, some USPs, which set us aside a little bit. So with crowdfunding, using our platform, what you can do is actually add rewards to your campaign, and that's offering a benefit of some kind in return for a financial contribution. And what we're talking about here is things like products or services or merchandise on behalf of the organisation in order to incentivise people's giving. So the idea of crowdfunding is essentially raising money from your community of people around you or your crowd. What we enable you to do is actually give something back to say thank you. And it's a great way for projects to connect as well with their business community. And we'll look a little bit more detail as to what rewards are and the types of things you can offer a little bit later on in the session. The other thing that we have at Crowdfunder UK is our match funding opportunity. And that's what we're going to talk about in detail today. We're going to look at how you can partner with our funders in order to potentially be eligible for and receive pledges from our funding partners such as Sport England, and we'll look at the offer that they have available in just a moment. So when it comes to the mechanics of crowdfunding, essentially the way it works is you come along to Crowdfunder UK, you set up your own account, which is free to set up. You then start creating a campaign page or a project page, as we call it. Within that page, you want to tell your story. You want to let your audience or your crowd know all about you as an organization, all about your great idea, how it's going to impact the community around you. You also want to set a target and decide how long you need to raise the money. You can then go on to add rewards and apply for any of those match funds or extra funding, as we call it, that you might be eligible for. As I mentioned, we'll go into a little bit more detail about rewards. However, the key thing to remember is be creative. Try and source a variety of rewards with a wide appeal, both for your potential members or your close core network that already engage with you, and also the wider community. You also want to be thinking about a variety of price points and making those rewards accessible. You would then go on to launch your project. And this is really key. There is a slight misconception that just by setting your project live on Crowdfunder, these magical funding fairies will come along and sprinkle pledges and donations onto your page. We wish it was that simple. However, what you will need to do as project owners and organizations is promote your own crowdfunding page. So you would have a link to your page that you can put into emails, newsletters, social media promotion, in-person conversations. Make sure that you're promoting that project page far and wide within your core audience, but also the wider community as well. That's going to really help to bring eyes to your page and have people making donations. There are lots of added benefits to crowdfunding that not everybody considers before they start using the platform. Of course, you're going to need to raise the money. That is your primary focus. You need the money to make your project happen. Some of the wonderful added benefits that come along with doing it in this way are things like validation in your idea. So it can be a really brilliant way to build your confidence in your own idea, but also make sure that you are building the confidence of your community in what you're hoping to deliver as well. It's a very low risk way to test the water to see if there actually is an appetite for what you're trying to achieve. By launching a crowdfunding campaign, you are going to be building awareness around what you're doing. Your main goal is to get your page visible within the community. So that's going to potentially engage with people who might not know much about you in the first instance, that weren't aware of the wonderful things you do within the community. That's going to build a really engaged audience, could get you noticed by a wider group of people as well. And that can create a buzz around your idea and get people excited to see it come to fruition. Everybody that donates on a crowdfunding campaign will automatically become an advocate for what you're doing and your organisation. They will start talking to their friends and their families about this great project that they're supporting locally. You might find that reaching out to the business community helps to build that advocacy, and they could start promoting what you're doing. So it's a lovely way to have that kind of icebreaker conversation with potential members of your community that could build really meaningful connections. And we've seen that happen time and time again, that beyond the crowdfunding campaign, there's been these lovely partnerships and lovely connections that have kind of started and been fostered through running the crowdfunding campaigns that have grown into really lovely, really wonderful relationships that 99% of the time are quite mutually beneficial between these kind of partnerships in the community. You will no doubt learn some new skills. It could be that, you know, things like networking or social media promotion, or even just creating an engaging project page. So having engaging copy or going out and taking great pictures. All of these things might not come naturally to you, but we have loads of resources and advice to help you do it effectively. And these can then be used in other areas of the organisation as well. And of course, there's the extra funding offer that we have, or match funding. So we work with around 50 partners, we call them, so both nationally and regionally, including Sport England, who we have here today. And we have over kind of £10 million worth of match funding available to eligible projects. So it's always a good idea to just check our extra funding page on our website to see who might potentially make a pledge onto your project, and make sure you're applying for all of the funds that you've been matched with through our system, because you can receive more than one pledge for your project from our funding partners. Now, this is a really interesting point, actually. So why does crowdfunding for sport and physical activity work so well? We know that it does here at Crowdfunder. Our wonderful friends at Sport England know that it does. And there are some really key reasons for that. Primarily, the idea of crowdfunding is making connections with the people around you in order to bring in those donations. So having a crowd around you that you can reach out to is really important. And quite often, organizations within the physical and physical activity and sports sectors, they have that ready-made crowd, whether it's their core members, whether it's the community that they engage with their project outreach, whether it's different organizations that they actually utilize or use the same space, the same venues. So there's always a crowd at their fingertips to reach out to. You are a group of people with a shared passion, and that's going to give you the drive to make this happen. So make sure that you are reaching out to people around you within your organisation, or volunteers, committee members, so that you can pool everybody's skill sets and do this as a collaborative effort. Making sure that you can lean on those people as part of a team is really important. It should be collaborative, and we do really encourage that. It can be quite an undertaking, and primarily organisations such as yourselves will have or be made up of maybe volunteers, or, as I said, kind of committees. It's a really good idea to develop a bit of a team in order to drive the crowdfunding campaign and make it successful. You will be known in your community, and it's a great opportunity to boost that awareness around who you are and what you do. But you will already have connections with influential people within your community as well, whether that's the local authority, whether that's alumni who have come through your organisation and have gone off and done this sport professionally, whatever it might look like for you. Make sure that you are building upon that kind of awareness of who you are already. You also have the ability to set fundraising challenges and activities, which can be a really exciting way to engage with your audience and give some of that ownership back to them to help you actually raise this money. We've seen some wonderful things over the years. But for example, if you have your own venue, your own space, host a community fundraising day. Go out and speak to the schools and local colleges and see if they might host some fundraising on your behalf. Go into those institutions and actually host the fundraising activity. There are lots of different things that you can do. Building upon that network, reaching out to your members, you know, it could be that actually they've got side hustles that they have. They might have businesses, they might be able to offer rewards. They can definitely share the project on behalf of the organisation. And I mentioned as well, alumni or even celebrities that, you know, practice the sport, are ambassadors for whatever it is that your project represents. And of course, championing that community impact that we know sports organisations and organisations promoting physical activity, the community impact that happens around those organisations is massive. So do make sure that you highlight that, not only on your page, but in all of your promotion as well. Just some numbers to consider. The impact so far when working with our sports partners. So with sports partners, I'm referring to Sport England, Sport Northern Ireland, Sport Wales, and we have also worked with British Cycling in the past as well. So looking at just those sporting partners, we've managed to distribute over £11.3 million to eligible projects who have raised over £39.5 million collectively between them. Over 7,200 projects have come through the platform during that time and have been supported by over 450,000 members of their community. So that's individuals taking the time to donate on those projects. So it's a massive opportunity to be part of this story and to increase those numbers further. But it's a really great wealth of information on our website already to look at projects that have come before you and see if you can take inspiration from those that have managed to do this successfully, either in your area or within your sporting sector. Now, somebody who has managed to do this recently and really successfully is the wonderful Claire Hancock-Devine from Newquay Women's Surf Club. Hi, Claire. How are you?
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, you're welcome.
Just looking at the slide here, what a lovely bunch of smiley women on a sunny day in Cornwall.
You're an awesome bunch.
Well, we can see that this was earlier, or I say earlier, this was late last year, wasn't it? So it was only closed in December. And the club managed to raise just over £20,000 from a whopping 176 supporters. So a huge amount of the community getting behind you.
Yeah.
And you also received a pledge from Sport England for £10,000.
We did. Yeah, it was amazing. We're incredibly grateful.
Would you mind telling us a little bit more about your project?
Yeah, of course. So we're a community-focused CIC with our aim of getting as many women and young girls in the water as possible. And like a lot of other CICs, funding is really hard at the moment. Costs are increasing for us, and it's been really important that we don't pass those costs on to our members. So we needed to look at alternative ways of getting some money in, and that's when we looked at Crowdfunder.
Amazing. And was there any particular reasons for kind of choosing crowdfunding rather than maybe applying for a traditional grant? Or I mean, you could potentially have applied for a loan as well. There are different ways that you could have brought money into the club.
Yeah, absolutely. I think looking at a loan wasn't really something that we wanted to do. And there's something about Crowdfunder that I think bring people together and they invest in you. And that was really important for us. There was lots of things that we really wanted to raise some money for, and Crowdfunder offered the opportunity for the match funding. That was a massive draw for us. And there was a local organisation, one of the local surf life-saving companies that had a really successful crowdfunding campaign, and we'd seen them do it successfully. So that's what got us to have a look. And then the match funding was also that massive appeal for us.
Love that. So it's always a good idea to see who's doing what in your area as well, and maybe take a bit of inspiration. We always talk about not having to reinvent the wheel here at Crowdfunder. You know, people have done this successfully before you. So take a look at what they've done, maybe even take a look at how they've promoted it and see what would work best for you as an organisation. In terms of those supporter numbers then, just looking at that, it's 176, which is really high in terms of support. Would you say that was mainly existing members or kind of the wider community? Was there a bit of a balance between the two? I know I've not put you with this question. I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah, there was a real mix. We absolutely seen our members step up and really support us, which was incredible. They really engaged with us and got behind the club. So there was definitely a lot of our members that supported us, but we were really overwhelmed as well by the support from the local community. We managed to get so much exposure through local radio stations, Radio Newquay, BBC Cornwall. We managed to get into local press, and it really spread the word. I think we also made the most of the fact that it was leading up to Christmas that we had this campaign. So there was lots of, you know, pushing the rewards, Christmas presents, that kind of thing. So when we have looked at our rewards that people have, they've got, they are all around the country. You know, we are sending some out. So we definitely reached more than our local community when we were raising this money.
Amazing. And there was an incredible selection of rewards. Lucy, thank you, has put into the chat box actually a link to Claire's project. So do go and have a little look. And I'm sure you would agree that it was a really wonderful, wonderful offering of rewards. How was the process of sourcing those?
I
Quite
won't lie,
tricky?
we've put in a lot of hard work into this. You know, it was hard work, but it's been totally worth it. Some of our rewards came from our actual members, that they had a variety of different things, whether it was their own businesses. We had artists that were already members that kindly donated paintings. We had massage therapists that were offering vouchers. But then also the committee were going out there and we were going into businesses. We were talking to local businesses. We were sending out emails. We were showing everybody locally who we are and what we were trying to do. And it was, for us, there was a lot of people that didn't actually know about us. We had just presumed that locally everybody knew about us. So it gave us a chance to do marketing that we didn't realize we were missing as well. So yeah, a lot of hard work of going out there, asking people, following up as well constantly.
That's really interesting that you say, you know, that you kind of assumed that because you're local and you have kind of a good following locally, you've got great membership numbers already, that
Yeah.
everyone would know who you are and what you do, and the great community impact that you have. So it's really interesting that it was almost a bit of an eye-opener for you guys, that actually it was coming as kind of news to people that this great club had been around for quite a while, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And it made us realize how much more opportunity we've got just within our local area, because like you said, we've got great numbers. We've got over 200 women that are members. So to realize that actually in our local community, there's even more people that we can reach. We had presumed that we were more well known than we were, if I'm honest, but this has just given us so much exposure by going into these local businesses. Yeah, it really has.
Amazing. And what about those? I mean, you've named a couple of those actually in terms of additional benefits. Awareness was obviously a really key one. Was there anything else that came as maybe a bit of a pleasant surprise alongside raising the money in terms of those additional benefits?
Yeah, I mean, the support from the local businesses, those relationships that we've built, and also members, I think you touched on it a second ago, a lot of our members started to do their own fundraising, that they were doing like their own challenges, and that's brilliant. That was bringing in money that we hadn't necessarily thought about, but with the exposure that we had, so being able to link up with Radio Newquay, for example, they were putting lots and lots of shout outs for us. They were really supporting the club, and they actually donated £500 out of their community fund, which was amazing. So we hadn't necessarily expected that to come from it. We were looking at exposure and trying to tell people about our crowdfunding campaign, but actually what came from it was further donations, which was amazing.
So exciting. Well, all that remains really is to say a massive well done, because it's a huge achievement and it was done in a short turnaround time in the lead up to Christmas, which can be really daunting for people because obviously, you know, everyone's thinking about Christmas and not necessarily donating money to a surf club, but you did it and it was an incredible effort. I'm sure that we will have some questions coming in about your experience. Sorry, would you mind hanging around with us in the
Course,
wings
yeah.
for the Q&A?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Claire, for your time, and we will see you a little bit later on. And that leads us nicely to introducing Lucy Gola from Sport England, who's going to talk through that wonderful match funding opportunity from Sport England. Hi, Lucy. How are you?
Hi, I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to hand over the reins and let you have a little talk through the fund. Please do prompt me with slides if you need me to move things on. I'm going to remove myself from view and get out of your way.
No worries. If you just want to move it on to the next one, that'd be really cool. Thank you. So we are one of the crowdfunders, extra funders, alongside people like Aviva. In the past, we've had M&S have been on there. Salford Council is already on there at the moment, and a whole heap of different places down in the southwest. We specifically are looking at sport and physical activity and trying to increase physical activity, particularly supporting those who perhaps are inactive at the moment. So On our website, we've got much more information about the criteria for the movement fund. We are looking at supporting projects which are about delivery to particular audiences, which are a priority for us. We can support smaller scale facility improvements, things like that. What we ultimately want to see is how is it getting more people physically active? That is the really crucial bit. Now, with our movement fund, you can actually apply for either you can either apply for well, you're coming through our main application system, and one of the results is that you could receive a grant or you could receive a pledge towards a crowdfunding project. Now, that pledge is 50% of what you've come to us for. So it could be up to 50% of your project cost, up to a maximum of £15,000. So we have a number of projects on the Movement Fund crowdfunder page where you can see projects who are getting a full £15,000 towards the £30,000 project target. Again, quite a few of them are more facility related, but we do support delivery as well. We often find with crowdfunding that extra, I guess, crowd support, we can see how much that crowd really wants this project to happen as well. So we can see the backing, we can see the support that's out there, and we want to support you through that process. So if you are awarded a 50% pledge, you will be allocated a case officer from one of our team who have had lots of experience with working with our clients and our customers, supporting them through the crowdfunding campaign, so we can help advise you and guide you on creating that page. So if you want to go on to the next slide, please, and I'll talk a little bit about the sort of the options we've got at the moment. So I've touched on the I'm not crowdfunding yet part. This is where perhaps you've not thought about applying to Sport England at all. So we would like you to take a look at our website, have a bit of a look at the criteria, the priorities that we're looking to support with this fund, and in which case, by all means, coming through the blue option, the start application. Now, what we have found really supportive and really good and really helpful is that often there are people who are going to Crowdfunder, starting up their crowdfunding campaign, but they're not aware of Sport England and what we can offer as an extra funder towards a project. So depending on the criteria that you have ticked while you're creating your crowdfunding campaign, you might see us crop up as somebody who it's worth applying to as an extra funder, and we will assess your application to us that way as well. So there were two routes. So if you've already got a campaign page, you can come in through that side door directly from the crowdfunder page, or if you have come through the front door, which is our main application route, then we will work with you closely on that one as well. Either way, we will support you through that process to getting your campaign page as good as it can be before you go live. Or if you are already live, we can support you with ideas to help reboost activity, generate the enthusiasm with your crowd again, and come up with ideas to support you through that process as well. I think those are probably the key elements.
Thank you, Lucy. That's fab. And Lucy and the rest of the team at Sport England are always open to discussing any of these kind of eligibility criteria further with you. And we will make sure that when we send our follow-up email, we'll put the contact address as well in for Sport England, and it will be on our final slide. So if you've got any questions about your specific project and whether it could be eligible for a movement fund pledge, please do contact them directly. Thank you so much, Lucy. Are you happy to stick around for the Q&A at the end as well? I'm sure we'll get some questions about the fund.
I can see we've got a few questions and answers in there already. I mean, our help desk is open from 8 till 5, Monday to Friday. There's a team of us here. So, and if it's someone who's already got a crowd fund or has already been offered a pledge, we can contact you back if there's a specific person you want to speak to. So that's not a problem. All right.
Thank you so much, Lucy, and we'll talk a little bit later on. So any questions about the fund, the movement fund, we will make sure that all these links are in the chat box for you as well. Please pop them into the Q&A and we can cover those off towards the end of the session. Lucy did mention there those two routes to application. So for the moment, I'm going to focus on that you're already in the crowdfunder world route to application. So You've come along to Crowdfunder UK, you've set up your free account, and you're starting to put together your project page. Within that kind of process, you will be asked some key questions to help us determine whether you could be eligible for any of our match funding opportunities. First of all, you'd need to let us know whereabouts you are in the country. You'll also be asked about your organisational structure. So whether you are a CIC or a CASC or a limited company or a charity, there's a drop-down set of options that you can choose from. You'll also have a section on extra funding. So this is where you can let us know, by way of ticking these boxes, who you're going to be working with, what are your potential project aims, and who is likely to benefit from your project. Once you've completed those elements, our wonderful computer system will match your project with any of our match funding partners or extra funding partners that we think could be a good fit for your project. You'll be able to view these in your project dashboard, which is where you can manage every aspect of your campaign. You can apply for the Sport England Movement Fund in that dashboard, and you can also apply for any other match funding opportunities that you think your project could be eligible for. It's a fairly straightforward process. I would always recommend taking a look at the questions beforehand. So you're going into your dashboard, opening up the application, taking a look over the questions, and then maybe going back and collaborating with that team that we mentioned, which is important, and just making sure that you've got your answers kind of saved elsewhere on a document somewhere so that you can copy and paste them over. And the majority of our funding applications will ask fairly similar questions. So having all of that information to hand can make that process really straightforward and really simplistic. And it could be around, I would say, about 15 minutes per application or so once you've actually got all of those answers to hand. So a really time effective and efficient way to be applying for essentially a grant fund as part of your crowdfunding campaign. Okay, so in terms of the movement fund, let's just take a look at how that would work in relation to your project. So you've created your account on Crowdfunder, you've started putting your page together, and you've been approved for a Sport England Movement Fund application, which is super exciting. So now all that remains is to launch your project and start crowdfunding. So you're going to start warming up your crowd, letting them know that a crowdfunding campaign is coming, talking to your close community. So that might be existing members, it could be the committee, it could be your board of directors and trustees. Whoever sits closest to this project are the ones you want to contact first. You want to let them know that the project is launching on, let's say it's launching on Friday at 9 o'clock in the morning. I need to guarantee that you're going to pop some pledges onto this page as soon as it goes live. You need those promised pledges to really kick off your campaign. Once you have those donations on there, you're going to start promoting it to a wider audience. You want to be aiming to raise 25% of your target that you have set yourself. Remember, you're in control of that target in the planning stages. You need to raise 25% of your initial target from at least 25 different individual donations, so unique supporters, in order to unlock that Sport England pledge. You will then see a chunk of money land on your page as a pledge from Sport England and a lovely banner that says Sport England have supported this project with X amount of money. Use that as a catalyst to go back out to your crowd and start drumming up that engagement and bringing in more donations in order to actually reach your target. So the Sport England pledge becomes part of the money that you're raising towards your target. Now, once you've reached 100% of that initial target, you have secured all of the funding that you've raised. You've secured your crowd money, you've secured your pledge from Sport England. Your project is successful, and that is the time to celebrate. However, if you still have some time left on your project, I encourage you all to keep fundraising. Set something that we call a stretch target, which enables you to have an additional goal in place, and go back out to your crowd. See how much money you can bring in to really elevate your project. You've raised what you need to get it off the ground and get it happening. What else could be of benefit to you? Do you need a little bit of money to promote it to a wider group? Could you really do with a few wish list items that are really going to make your project sing? All of those things can be included in your stretch target, which is above and beyond kind of that initial target to get you off the ground. One question that comes up a lot and can be quite daunting for people considering crowdfunding is, how do I connect with my crowd? How do I go out there and promote this project effectively? And one way to do it, which proves to be successful, is to actually think about your community and your crowd in separate bubbles, separate groups of people. If you can, in the planning stages, think about your community as a whole and break the individuals down into these groups that you see here on this slide, it can really help to tailor your promotion. So ideally, you want to be thinking about friends and family. They're going to sit really close to this project. They make up part of your core audience. Chances are you're going to have conversations with this group. You might even send them a WhatsApp message, Facebook Messenger. You're going to have a different way of communicating with this group of people than you will to, for example, the business community, whereby you might be sending a slightly more formalized letter, but still personable, or an email. Maybe you're talking about the rewards offer and how may they be able to support you with that, and how might you promote them by way of mutually beneficial kind of connection between the two of you. That's going to be different to how you communicate with your existing members or participants. That could be a newsletter, or again, WhatsApp groups, and you're going to be talking with that group of people about what will benefit them about the project. Is it going to be increased opening hours, that we're getting new equipment, that we're going to be able to offer this new outreach? What is it that's going to connect with that group of the audience? So always think about tailoring your promotion and tailoring the story that you're telling within that to each group of individuals. What's going to be the hook that gets them interested and gets them looking at your page and potentially making a donation? It's really important to try and make your promotion as individualized and as personable as possible. Make it focused around the people involved in the project and the community impact it's going to achieve. You are much more likely to yield engagement that way than maybe sending out a blanket email to absolutely everybody that you have a contact for and saying, we're crowdfunding, please give us your money. Think about how you actually create that sense of collaboration. What is it that is going to get people to donate to your project? And that will be different for different groups of people within your community. We've talked a lot about match funding and the extra funding opportunities that we have. I really recommend that you take a look at our extra funding page. We work with lots of different organisations, all focusing on different areas of what a project can bring, so project aims, and in different areas of the country as well. So there may well be funding partners that could support your projects in addition to and as well as the Movement Fund. One thing that's really key about engaging with your audience is the ability to tell a compelling story. With sports and physical activity, we know what works well, so much so that we've actually set up a template that you can access when you sign up to Crowdfunder. So when you start putting your project page together, you'll actually receive these prompts on your page, and all you need to do is be responsive to that. So we encourage you to change the titles and make them a bit more personable where possible, and just follow those prompts. Let us know who you are, what you're doing, what that community impact is. Make sure that you're filling that page with images as well. And again, try and have people within those images if you can do. It's a lot easier, I think, for people to resonate with other people than it is with kind of, shiny drone footage, plans, all those kinds of things. They're important as well, but make sure that you're also showcasing that kind of human interest point. If you can add a video to the page, that can be a really brilliant way to kind of get somebody's attention in a short amount of time. It only needs to be about a minute to a minute and a half long, and all you need to cover is who you are, why you're crowdfunding, what you're crowdfunding for, so how you're going to spend that money, and then how can people support you. So that's share our page, donate a reward, maybe do some fundraising, and of course donate if you can. All of those things are the recipe for a successfully engaging page. Keep it human interest focused. Make sure you've got images on there. Be really clear and concise with how you're spending the money, and make sure you're highlighting all of the wonderful things that your organisation does. Think about 2 narratives with that story. The group of people that know you and participate and engage with you already will have an understanding of who you are. However, just like Claire mentioned when we talked about the surf club, there will be a group of people that maybe you're unaware of, but they don't know who you are, and they know very little about your organization. So try and strike a balance when you're creating your page between those two messages. Let people know a bit of the history, a bit of the great things that you do, but then also talk about, your existing kind of membership, your existing participants. Have some things in there that really engage with different groups of your audience. And of course, get creative with those rewards. Take a look at Claire's page. There's some wonderful rewards on there. Everything from artwork through to, as she mentioned, massage sessions. The club actually created some kind of one-off line of merchandise. So there's things like limited edition t-shirts, tote bags, stickers, those kinds of things, which are great. And then also think about that wider community. And you can see here, you've got some things that might not necessarily be the most glitzy and glamorous of rewards, but with this time of year coming up, if there's somebody that's not done their self-assessment yet, and there's a local accountant who's willing to actually put up their time or a discounted service, there will be somebody who needs to get that done, who thinks, I'm going to save myself a bit of money and I'm actually going to get this accounting service through the local crowdfunding campaign rather than direct on the high street, and I'm going to save myself a bit of money too. So think about potential necessities for people, also luxuries. Think about what's around you as well. Are there any, let's say, tourist attractions or leisure facilities that you might be able to go and speak to? Maybe a family cinema ticket, those types of things. If you can offer them at a discount on your crowdfunding page, will incentivize that wider audience to donate to your campaign and claim that reward for themselves, and use that in order to then promote the campaign. So focus on those rewards and those businesses that have been so generous, give them a shout out, and it will help to push that message out to a wider audience. We've also talked about fundraising today, and this is a brilliant example of a recent crowdfunding campaign which actually engaged with their participants to go out there and raise money on behalf of the project. So this was Brighton Surf Lifesaving Club, and they had 3 different fundraisers running, raising varying amounts of money, I should say. Some people, swam 3.8k, others swam 70k. So they took it upon themselves to do some sponsored swimming challenges, and they then promote those individual fundraisers within their own networks. Everything that's raised from those fundraisers funnel back onto the main page. It's a simple thing to set up, and we can do that for you. And it's a great way to give people another way in which they can take ownership of what you're doing, collaborate with you, and actually help you raise the money that you need. Okay. We have a huge wealth of support available to help you be successful running a crowdfunding campaign and accessing that match funding. So we have webinars such as this. We also have a brilliant knowledge hub, which is full of all sorts of wonderful guides and hints and tips for every stage of your campaign. We've got some great tailored email advice when you do sign up to Crowdfunder and you let us know what kind of sector you're working within. We'll make sure you get the right information. We have a brilliant customer support team who are real people, and they have created all of our help centre as well. So always check the help centre for any FAQs or troubleshooting guides. And then beyond that, of course, you can always contact support and they can help you as well. And then that live project dashboard that I mentioned is where you can manage every single aspect of your campaign. You can download supporter details, apply for extra funding, extend your project, close your project, all sorts of things you can do from there. So do make sure you engage with that as well. Okay, that brings us to the end of our slide content for today. And now we're going to open up the floor to some questions. So I'd love to welcome back Claire and Lucy. Thank you for hanging on in there in the wings. Have we got Claire as well? Hi, Claire. Thank you.
Hello. No problem.
Right, I'm going to stop this share so I can see your wonderful faces, and I'm going to dive into the Q&A box and see. I did see it pinging as I was talking, so we've got quite a
few. There was quite a few specific to Movement Fund and things like that, so I've been typing a few replies specific to people as well.
Amazing. Were there any that you think might be of benefit for the room to hear, Lucy, or were they very kind of project specific?
Some are project specific, but there was an inquiry about, let me just click on the ones I've replied to. So it's in terms of reaching your target. That was quite a good general one to probably cover.
Okay.
So if you set a target on your page, we have funded against keep what you raise or all or nothing. What I would say is that unless you reach the target, so you might be traveling along very well along that timeline that Zoe showed us, where you've reached your 25 supporters, you've reached your 25%, and you've then got our pledge land in the middle, which is that 50%, and you've got that last bit to go for. If you don't reach that final target, if you're on a keep what you raise, your crowd money would stay there, but ours will drop away. So it is really, really important that we will be there supporting you throughout that process. So if you need to extend your time a little bit, we will support you with that. We will talk to you about what you can be doing in that new extension of time in terms of promotion, updates, things like that. If you want to pop on a newer reward that might entice a few more people that you could promote about it on Facebook and things like that, we will go through that with you. So we can extend and support you to get to that target. But yes, unfortunately, if you don't get to that final one, the pledge would drop away. We do need to see you get there.
Thanks, Lucy. Yeah, that's really good to bear in mind. And it's something to consider when you're setting up your project anyway. If you are looking to apply for match funding, do make sure you're checking the T's and C's of those pledge conditions, because it could be that with Sport England, for example, they need you to hit 100% to secure their pledge. It might be that other funders are set up slightly differently, but I would always say, you always really want to be aiming to reach your target. You know, you've come up with your target for a reason, and ideally you want to push towards reaching that if you possibly can. And as Lucy mentioned, there's lots of support around that to help you do it, and the potential to extend, and little hints and tricks to help you do that in the kind of lead up to the deadline as well, to it closing. We have had a question come through. Where is this one? We've had a few more pop in. Okay, so we've had a question come through about people donating from abroad. So most of Emma's family and her network are in Canada. And if she was to set up a crowdfunding campaign here, would people be able to donate from abroad? Absolutely. As long as the card that they're using, and the banking card that they're using, is recognised by our system, people can donate worldwide. That's absolutely fine. The only thing that you would need in order to set up a crowdfunding campaign with us is to make sure that the project itself has got a verified UK bank account attached to it. But in terms of people donating, they can support you from all around the world. Okay, in terms of durations and things like that, that often comes up. I know we've had a few people asking about the ideal duration of a crowdfunding campaign. Is there any kind of restrictions in terms of the movement fund, Lucy, when it comes to a campaign duration time?
I think ideally we would like to see, as with any crowdfunding campaign, if it can be around that 6 to 8 weeks, then great. Shorter is always good. If everyone's primed and ready to go, then that's the perfect timing. What I would say is the longer it goes on, the less, I guess, drive there is. The crowd will perhaps not be as interested. They'll be like, well, it's just ticking along. And we would like a cut-off of absolutely no more than 10 to 12 weeks. So I would always start shorter. You can always extend a little bit, but if you set it up as 10 to 12 weeks right from the get-go, you've got nowhere to go. So start it off a bit shorter, be really driven, be really focused, push all of your social knowledge, your social media knowledge, your local community, everything. Try and get that really sort of going within that real key sort of 6 or 7 weeks at the beginning.
Thank you. That actually leads me on nicely to picking Claire's brains about this. So I believe your project was around kind of 6 weeks in the end. I think it got extended, didn't it? Did you find that there was, what we notice at Crowdfunder is when a project launches, there's so much excitement around it from those that are running the campaign, and those donations do start kind of flooding in, and then maybe it goes quiet for a little bit, and then everyone gets maybe a little bit twitchy, and actually towards the end, everyone's engagement ramps up and people see that deadline and start donating again. Did you notice that trend? My other question would be, what did you do in order to kind of ramp up that engagement towards the end when you noticed there was a bit of a lull?
Yeah, definitely. We did notice that everybody was so keen to kind of get it started, and we really encouraged people to kind of get those pledges on there initially to get it going. And there was a part when it dropped off, but actually it leads into what Lucy was saying, is when that money then comes in from Sport England, it gives such a big boost to the campaign, and everybody can see that their hard work is paying off. And it definitely gives you that boost to push to get that last bit. Now, we just did not stop with promoting it. It was one thing that we kept going, we kept pushing. We were always putting out social media posts. We were always letting our members know what we were doing. And I think because when you get so close to that target, everybody's so desperate for you to get to that last little bit. We had members that were like, I bought another £3 sticker. I put another £3 in, and everybody really wants you to get there, because the more that we put out sort of personal stories, we made it so personal, and I think people really understood what our club was about. You've said during the presentation, Zoe, about like videos and things like that. We would put little short films out about how much this campaign meant to people, whether it was current members or committee members. And I think people just really bought into our vision, our love, our community, all of that, and we just kept going with that. And I think it really kind of pulled on people's heartstrings in a way. You know, people are like, wow, this community means something, and I think that really helped. But we just didn't stop. You have to keep pushing and pushing. You can't sit back in a short campaign.
That's really amazing, actually, to think that your kind of little video shorts and things were probably the most engaging thing that you did, because that's something that I think we notice here a lot, that the more person-centric you can make a project, the more kind of testimonials you can gather. And if that's done in a video format, that's brilliant, because people can really understand from the person's perspective just what that project might mean to them. And if you've got capacity to do that, it could maybe be a call to action in the lead up to planning a campaign. You know, please do send us a testimonial or a little video message or a voice note about what the organisation means to you, you know, what your experiences have been. All of those things that you can get done ahead of actually launching your campaign gives you a wonderful archive of content, for want of a better word, to then promote the campaign. So do be thinking kind of strategically as well about how you're going to promote this before you even go live, is what my advice would be to you. We've actually got a question here from Danielle for you, Claire. Yeah. Are there any top tips for how to approach local communities to have positive conversations and gain support? So they've tried calling businesses and dropping leaflets in the past, but they aren't always very well received. How did you find that process of actually going out and starting those conversations about what you were doing?
I mean, I do understand that there were obviously companies that we approached that weren't interested, that weren't really interested in supporting us, but we went in face to face to a lot of places, and I think that really helps being able to actually talk about it, because so many of our committee members are so passionate about this club that I think when you speak to somebody face to face, you see that passion, you hear it, you feel it. So that definitely helped, approaching as many people as we could face to face. Following up as well, you know, people are busy, businesses are busy, and you send off an email and you don't get anything back. So actually being able to follow up and saying, is there any more information that you would like? And you weren't always asking for rewards. If people couldn't support you with rewards, because we know that not everybody can, then saying, if you can't support us through rewards, we'd really like you to be able to pop a poster in your cafe, or could you share it on your social media platform? So giving them a variety of ways that they can support you, not that we are just asking you for money or a donation. So having people share as well made a massive difference. But yeah, it's making it as personal as you can, and I think going in there and speaking to people made a big difference.
Yeah, that's really important. And like you say, giving them a variety of ways in which to get involved, I think, is really important. And it can break down that barrier to feeling a bit uncomfortable of just saying, please, can you give us something? You know, yeah. The other thing I would recommend as well is, I've said it many times today, but that mutually beneficial kind of partnership. So if you are asking for a reward, what does that do for that business? The idea is you're actually potentially increasing their awareness, or the community's awareness of them as a business, maybe increasing their customer numbers, shouting about how wonderful they are to support a community organization. Could you maybe say, we're thinking of doing something whereby actually we pin your business to the top of our social media accounts and our pages for a couple of days, and we're going to promote you guys for being amazing. We're going to do a massive shout out on our social media or on our website. We're going to have a page of collaborative, you know, sponsors who've helped us with rewards. Is there something that you can give back to them, which might be a bit of time and effort, but actually make them feel special for doing something great as well? So think about those kind of incentivized ways that you can help people support you.
Absolutely. We did exactly that, Zoe. We put a shout out on our social media for anybody that made a donation to us. We were like, we will promote you. This is how many followers we've got online. We can promote your business. And we did. We put out a shout out to everybody that helped donate rewards.
Amazing. We've had a question in from Sue, and I think this is a really good one. We're coming to the top of the hour, but I think it's a good one to cover off, and something that people are obviously going to be wondering about is fees. And I've said a few times that it's a free to access account with Crowdfunder, which it is. You can set up and run a crowdfunding campaign at no cost. There are fees attached for a successful campaign, and what we mean by that is, if your project closes successfully, so if you're an all or nothing campaign and you've reached your target, you are successful. If you're a keep what you raise campaign, if you raise any money at all by the time that your campaign ends, you will be deemed successful. And at that point, there will be fees that are taken from the pot of money that's been accrued from your donations from your crowd. And those fees will be transaction fees, essentially. So people that have donated digitally using our third party payment provider Stripe, there are fees attached with that, and that will come out of your pot of money before it gets paid to you, sorry. So you won't be liable for paying any fees as such. There will be fees deducted before you receive your payout. The other thing to caveat that with is, again, check any funding partners' T's and C's to see if there are any fees attached to their pledge, to their match fund. As not-for-profit organisations, so charities, social enterprises, CICs, CASCs, you would not be liable for any platform fees, we call them, which is essentially a fee to keep the lights on here and keep the platform running and get access to all of the resources and things that we have available to you. So if you fit into a not-for-profit structure, the only fees you could be potentially seeing are transaction fees and maybe a match funding pledge fee if there's one attached to your match funding pledge. The way that you work around that is always think about adding a little bit more onto your target amount. Think about the amount that you need to get your project off the ground, and then add a few more % onto that to cover things like any transaction fees, any money that might be involved in creating or delivering any rewards. Do you have to send things out? Do you want to create a line of merchandise that you're going to add on? You know, those things can be absorbed within that target amount. So just think about those things in the planning stages as well. Okay. Really quickly, next question is a good one as well. Are the donations eligible for gift aid? If your organisation is eligible to receive gift aid, you can just tick the box when creating your page, and donations can accrue gift aid. I would say the best thing to do with gift aid questions is direct them to HMRC. We do allow you to accrue the gift aid when it comes to actually those kind of intricate questions, because I know that there's a few different things you can and can't receive gift aid for. Just double check that with either your accountant or HMRC. And then once your crowdfunding campaign ends, you'll be able to download a gift aid report and then upload that into the HMRC portal and draw down your gift aid. If you realise, oh no, we're not actually eligible for gift aid, you just uncheck that box. So it's quite a simple thing to do with your page, but with all the intricacies of gift aid, I definitely would say go speak to the experts. That does bring us to 1 o'clock. I'm going to make sure I go back through that chat box, and any questions that we've not been able to cover off today, I'll make sure I pop into either the replay email, or I will contact you directly with any answers. do make sure that you are staying in contact with us, contacting Sport England if you need to in terms of that eligibility criteria as well. I'm just going to pop our last slide up now, which has got those contact details on for you. Bear with me 1 second. If I can, hoping that's gonna, might take a moment. There we are. So you can contact Sport England at the email address or give them a call directly. With Crowdfunder, if you get in touch with our support team, they'll triage your question and make sure it goes to the right member of the team to help you. All that remains to say is thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, Claire. Thank you, Lucy, for joining me as well. Lovely to have you both. And we wish you all the best of luck with your crowdfunding journeys, and do stay in touch. Thank you so much.